Tonight, we take you behind the bright lights and perfect smiles, into the world where every tear, every hug, and every emotional moment might not be what it seems. This is not just about wrestling, it's about the business of emotion, control, and image. Welcome to the story of the 9 most powerful female embracing moments in WWE history, and the truth that WWE doesn't want you to see. It all began with Trish and Lita, 2 women who carried the women's division through an era that didn't respect it. When Trish hugged Lita during her retirement match, fans saw heartfelt closure. But insiders saw something else, a desperate company move to rewrite history. WWE had spent years using these 2 as eye candy before letting them prove they could wrestle. That embrace wasn't just love, it was silent protest, a way of saying, we built this ring with zero help, and now you cheer for what you once ignored. It was beautiful. But it was also bittersweet because that hug came at the end of their fight for respect, not during it. Then came Paige's retirement, one of the most emotional segments in modern wrestling. The locker room surrounded her, Bayley and Sasha hugged her, and the crowd cried. But here's the truth, WWE pushed Paige's career so hard, so fast, that her injuries became inevitable. When she broke, they used her goodbye as a storyline of inspiration. It wasn't just a tribute, it was a PR masterpiece, turning tragedy into ratings. Paige's hug symbolized something bigger, the cost of being a female star in a system that values performance over ratings. Then came the historic Evolution pay-per-view. Every woman in the company hugged, celebrated, and cheered. The world called it a victory for women's wrestling. But inside, many superstars knew the event was born not from progress, but pressure. WWE was under global criticism for holding shows in Saudi Arabia, a country banning women from performing. Evolution was the company's way to silence critics, to show equality while chasing profit elsewhere. The embraces that night were real, but the reason behind the event was not. It was business disguised as empowerment, a picture-perfect illusion of change. One of the most shocking moments of honesty came between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Their rivalry was real, their tension public, and their embrace felt forced even to viewers. Behind the scenes, the 2 were at odds over spotlight, titles, and creative control. When they hugged after that brutal match, WWE presented it as mutual respect. But backstage reports confirmed, the tension remained. That hug symbolized WWE's favorite tactic, rewriting real conflict into sportsmanship. A fake resolution that keeps the cameras rolling while the truth burns quietly behind them. Lee and Kaitlyn told another kind of truth, the truth about being first. Their emotional hug after their final match wasn't in the script, it was spontaneous, human. Both women came through the Divas era, constantly mocked, underpaid, and overworked. They didn't hug for the cameras, they hugged because they survived. But WWE used it later in highlight reels as proof of how they always cared about women's wrestling. Reality was, they didn't. Those women made it happen in spite of the system, not because of it. Then there was Ronda Rousey and Natalya, a friendship from the outside world brought into the WWE machine. Their hug after a hard-hitting match showed real emotion, 2 athletes respecting each other. But once again, WWE turned it into narrative currency, pushing Ronda as the hero champion using Natalya's loyalty as a prop. Behind that hug was a harsh truth, real athletes being molded into entertainment figures for corporate storylines. Few moments were as genuine as Bianca Belair and at WrestleMania. That embrace carried respect, exhaustion, and power. Yet even there, WWE's hand was visible, turning Becky's loss into a redemption story, while Bianca's triumph became a symbol of diversity success. The company used their moment to craft a message, we support new stars. But in reality, it took years of fan demand before Bianca ever got that chance. The timing wasn't. It was allowed only when the brand needed it. And finally 2 women walking out together, hand in hand, defying the company's authority. That embrace wasn't in the ring, it was in rebellion. WWE tried to erase it, spinning it as unprofessionalism. But fans saw the truth, used to be puppets. They chose principle over paycheck. It was the most powerful embrace of them all, because it wasn't approved by WWE. It was real. 9 embraces. 9 stories of emotion, control, and conflict. Each one showing how WWE has mastered the art of turning real human connection into marketable moments. Behind every hug, there's a contract, a script, or a camera waiting to capitalize on authenticity. And yet, despite it all, these women made those moments real. That's the contradiction at the heart of WWE's women's division, real emotion inside an artificial system. WWE sells empowerment, but it manufactures it on its own terms. It rewards unity, but only when it boosts image. It celebrates sisterhood, but quietly controls who gets to hug and when. The embracing moments we saw, from Trish and Lita to Sasha and, are proof of two truths existing at once. Yes, they're emotional. Yes, they're real. But they're also exploited. WWE knows that in a world of scripted drama, the most profitable thing isn't violence, it's vulnerability. The moment two women hug, it humanizes the brand. It makes fans believe in heart over politics. But that's the trap, because once the cameras stop, the system resets. This is not just a list of moments, it's a pattern. Every emotional hug becomes a shield for WWE. When criticism rises, they replay these moments. When accusations of sexism appear, they air another highlight reel of tears and unity. It's a marketing cycle disguised as human compassion. But here's the twist WWE never saw coming: the fans have evolved faster than the company. We remember the hugs, but we also remember the hypocrisy. We see the love, but we also see the manipulation. And the women, from veterans to newcomers, now use those moments as power, not weakness. Each embrace, each tear, each act of defiance tells the world, we are more than your storylines. We are not your products. We are the reason your ring matters. But as the lights fade, and the cameras stop recording, something important remains in the silence. Behind every scripted smile, behind every carefully timed hug, there's a heartbeat that can't be faked. It's the heartbeat of women who've fought for decades to be seen, respected, and remembered not as accessories, but as athletes, storytellers, and trailblazers. WWE calls these moments historic, and yes, they are. But the truth runs deeper. Each embrace is a confession, a glimpse of what the company wants fans to believe, and what the wrestlers are actually feeling, because when Trish Stratus hugged Lita, when Bayley held Sasha, when Becky and Bianca embraced, these weren't just good television. They were survival moments, quiet victories in a world that constantly told them they were replaceable. WWE knows how powerful emotion can be. The company thrives on it. It takes real friendship, real pain, and real passion, then packages it into a storyline. It sells vulnerability as entertainment, turns breakdowns into brand growth, and markets unity as evolution. And yet, in doing that, it accidentally reveals the very truth it tries to hide, that the women of WWE are no longer controlled by the script. They've learned how to use it. How to take the camera meant to contain them, and make it their weapon. Because every time these women embraced, the fans saw more than the company intended. They saw strength. They saw endurance. They saw real humanity in a business built on illusion. And that's what WWE can never fully own, the authenticity that slips through the cracks of its own creation. The real story isn't just in those 9 hugs. It's in the way the crowd reacts, the silence before the roar. It's in the tear that falls when the music fades. It's in the moment where even the commentary team stops talking, because for once, what's happening in that ring doesn't need words. For decades, WWE built its empire on control. Control of narratives. Control of image. Control of emotion. But every time 2 women stood in that ring and embraced, they broke that control, if only for a few seconds. Because no camera, no script, no executive can truly own what's real. Maybe that's why, years later, those hugs still go viral. Because they weren't perfect. They weren't polished. They were messy, human, and painfully real, everything wrestling once tried to hide. So when we look back at these 9 embracing moments, we're not just looking at highlights of women's wrestling. We're looking at emotional fingerprints, left by women who refuse to be erased. They hugged not to entertain us, but to remind each other, we made it. We survived. We mattered. And that's what WWE never fully expected, that their own stars would turn the system inside out. That the same ring used to silence them would become the stage for their truth. That every embrace would become a protest in disguise. A rebellion wrapped in compassion. A symbol that even in a world ruled by scripts, there's something stronger, heart. Maybe, one day, WWE will truly let those moments exist freely, not as marketing, but as legacy. Not as content, but as history. Because that's what these women deserve, to have their emotion remembered not as footage, but as truth.